You know, if you watch the news, you can tell that everyone has an agenda, from regardless of which anchor is talking about the news, depending on the channel it's on. You just know who they favor, who they don't, and how they try to twist the truth. But there is something about telling the truth that just works well, and it's that you can't necessarily change your opinion. You see, a lot of times when you have newscasters or individuals talking about economics, they'll change their mind. They'll say something, and then 3 weeks later, they'll say something completely opposing what they said 3 weeks before. And one of the things I've been pretty consistent with is that Ferraris just suck. I know, this is like pretty harsh to hear, because the majority of people in the United States and around the world still look at Ferrari as the great icon it once was. And I've been saying for the last 5-6 years that Ferrari really has lost its touch with its customers, with its brand, and more importantly, with its product. Now, you guys know that I'm not a big fan, yet I have had every Ferrari, from the 812, the Pista, the F12, the 360, the 430, the 458, and everything in between. And I've had some pretty good, cool versions of them, including a really rare tailor-made Pista. And now this is literally my third SF90. And a fourth one on the way. So you might be asking yourself, well, what the hell do you need 4 SF90s for? Well, for the first time in the last probably 7 years, I have finally found a Ferrari that I actually like. And we've talked about this in my last review of the SF90, so we're not going to make this an SF90 review, because in my last review of my matte gray one, which was my first one, followed by my matte black one, which you guys haven't seen for a purpose, but the matte gray one was a car that was like a 620K sticker. The majority of that was because of the paint being like 20 grand or so, because it was matte. It was really pretty, but somehow, while I enjoyed it, I said a couple of key things, and I'm gonna take that to talk about the SF90, then I'm gonna tell you why I bought this particular SF90. But the matte gray car, while very pretty as a whole, was a very base model in the sense that the seats had, you know, the upgraded seats, but they weren't the carbon seats. The interior had very minimal carbon, but the exterior had all the carbon and looked really cool. So on the surface, I did say a couple of things about the car that I think we're gonna review for those of you guys that missed it. And the first thing was, I thought the design was brilliant. I thought the design was beautiful, and it was one of the sexiest Ferraris that had come out in a long time. The second thing I mentioned that I thought was really good about the car and really exciting was the drive. It was a hybrid, yet it sounded fantastic, even better than my Pista, and it was incredibly fast and fun to drive. And it was all amazing. But I did mention it had a couple of flaws. Like I talked about how the mirror and switches are just annoying. Like the fact that these digital switches exist is just stupid. They should have just been regular plastic knobs, because they don't work well. If they worked well, it would work. So moving a mirror is like trying to guess what's happening and hoping you're pressing the right place to get the mirror to move in the right direction. So that was awful, like absolutely awful. And it still had some minor rattles inside, despite being much better than previous versions like the 488 and the F8, which I have trashed on this channel as some of the worst cars ever built by Ferrari from a quality and craftsmanship standpoint. So the SF90 to me was a very refreshing angle on what Ferrari could do, because they put more effort towards the car. Now here, I bought yet my third SF90, and how, you know, people keep asking me, how has Ferrari not banned you for telling the truth? And the answer is, I don't even think they know where or how I get my cars, because they don't know what business name I'm buying them under. I think that's the key here. But anyways, so where I'm coming to try to get to you is that this SF90 is the pinnacle of what a coupe should be. I decided to buy this car because it was a 700 plus sticker, and it was this color. This color is called Rosa Mugello. Now, if I'm saying this right or not, I don't really give a shit. If I can afford it, I can say it however I want to say it. So this is a dark lipstick red, and the reason I bought this car this color, I wanted exactly this color, And there was a reason. You see, before the SF90 came out, before like everybody had one, when it was very, very fresh, my car was on order. And I went to Vegas and I saw in one of the valets, I was going to a show, I think a Cirque du Soleil show, and one of the valets like pulled up a Ferrari because someone was waiting for their car. And it was exactly this color, like exactly this lipstick, beautiful dark red. And while that car had no carbon on it and it was very basic, it didn't have a Acero Fiorina package or anything, it was just this color. And I just couldn't stop thinking to myself, I was like, what a great color for this car. Like it's just so sexy, it just works so well. It's not the regular red, but it's like so exciting. And I've been a fan of this color on the F12 as well, but on this car, it just worked surprisingly well. So after I did my first two SF90s, right, which were both matte colors, I decided that I really wanted a red one like this before the Spider came in. And I wanted to keep this, so I found the highest loaded, craziest 22 SF90 I could find with every possible option. And I did that in this particular color, which was the color I wanted. Now, I didn't order this car. I ended up buying it used, meaning it's still a brand new 22, but I bought it used from a Ferrari store in California. And it is magnificent because from an option standpoint, it is the best version of anything I've seen on the road anyways. Every carbon piece on the outside from the front follows to the side, follows to the vents, and again, it continues with the rear diffuser, all carbon. Full carbon engine bay, which is a must. Factory painted black roof, a must. Acero Fiorina package with all four wheels in carbon, and of course, the carbon spoiler that comes with that package, an absolute must. Because from the rear, especially when looking from here, that is one of the best rear ends out of any car in history. Like that is one of the sexiest rear ends anywhere. And the only flaw, again, like we talked about last time again, is this license bracket. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that, but everything else on the car from a rear end standpoint is magnificent. Again, you have your two, charging ports, your electric and your gas-powered ones. But as far as this car goes, everything that could possibly be done in carbon on the outside has been done. And then the interior features everything again in carbon with the carbon race seats with the lifters. In addition to that, the full matte carbon doors and matte upper dash in carbon with the middle all in gloss. Now, this gloss carbon carries on the back here, again, right here in the middle of the back panel, completely gloss and carbon together, and fantastic once again. So a beautiful, beautiful combination. And you'll see the dark red Daytona stitches in the middle of the seats, which really gives it the right accent and the dark red seat belts to match. Premium audio and everything else you could think. And again, now you're talking about a car that has, again, a 700K plus sticker. I'll mention that the majority of cars, while they have black roofs, people forget to paint this piece gloss black. You see this middle piece right here? And so they usually have it matte black, which looks terrible. In this car, it was matched to the roof, giving it a very, very clean and classy look, because one of my biggest complaints on all modern Ferraris is they leave this, including the Pista, in black, like in dull black plastic, and it looks terrible. So this is a very, very loaded SF90. Now there's still more loaded cars than this. There's still ones that can go as high as 780, 790 once you do airbrush logos, start trimming the interior of the booth in carbon and things like that. But as far as the exterior goes, as far as the interior goes, and as far as what you can see from your eyes go, this is as good as it gets and one of the best color combinations. So I've decided to buy this car because we're going to talk about this for a second. SF90 values have come down significantly from where they were back about maybe 6-7 months ago. As you know, the car market, I've been talking about this in Exotic Car Hacks, that the right cars will stay up, but some cars have been softening. And newer cars like this, the F8, the 911 turbos, the GT3s, they all have shown significant signs of softness as dealers are not able to sell these cars because liquidity has left the market. So you can get a really good deal in SF90 now. I didn't pay a huge surcharge to have this car, and yet it's a fantastic version of the car. And if you talked about 6 months ago, I would have paid $120,000, $130,000 over sticker to be able to get specifically this car, right? Now, my last car literally was like a $250K over sticker car, that tells you the difference in how much the market has shifted in these. But it hasn't come down yet. It's weird because some dealers aren't moving at all. Other dealers are more flexible. So it's kind of a mixed bag of where things are going to go. I think in the long term, not in the short term, but in the long term, the SF90 is still a pretty decent investment because I think people aren't realizing how good of a car it is. And they're focusing on this F8 stuff. But I think this is going to be a really important car for Ferrari in a couple of years. And I think that's why people will come back, similar to what the P1 was for McLaren before. But I want to show you kind of a brief kind of idea of what I'm talking about. And I want you to kind of see it. I want you to kind of understand it. And I want to make a point here because this is the better edge I want to show you. You guys can come over here, stay on this side so I can show you, just so you can understand kind of the way I look at things and pay attention to every little detail and how I determine when I say, oh, a car is crap or it's built poorly. So if you look around the edges here, you can look on your side and I'll look on mine. Around the edges of this middle spoiler here, or around the edges of this top hatch right here, you'll notice that the alignment of the panels are very close, but they're not perfect. Now, one argument that I make here is often that these panels have to be perfect, and I'll explain why. Because this is the closest to perfect Ferrari has come in the last 10 years of making a car so the panels line up. I have had F8s where basically brand new from the factory, this panel, which this is because of the Fiorina package, it has this slotted, more light panel instead of the glass, but where this panel right here would literally, the glue would start to come off on the F8 within like a month. I've had things where the mirrors don't match because the white was done poorly, like quality control didn't catch it. I've had it where panels like here look like the car was crashed in, it was brand new with 3 miles. It just didn't make sense for me with the F8, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of started getting really turned off by Ferrari. And I started realizing that Ferrari puts a lot of effort once you build out their cars through tailor-made or do a ton of options. But on their base cars, the cars that have no options, no carbon, no nothing, they kind of like just get them out there and they don't really care. One final thing I'll tell you about the SF90 if you're thinking of buying one, because a lot of people don't seem to know this because I modify my cars. This car is actually sitting on a set of what you would think is Novitec coils because it's lowered, and then of course spacers. Now, 2 key things that actually Novitec is wrong for when it comes to the SF90. The first thing is that if you have an SF90 and it has the Assetto Fiorina package, which means that it has the carbon wheels and the carbon spoiler, that package also comes with a lift delete, which means that your car does not have a lift. That is not an option. That is because of the type of suspension that comes on the car. This is the prettiest suspension we've ever seen on any car anywhere when we took it apart. It has actually a titanium spring that is so gorgeous to look at that it's just unbelievable. Now, what's even more incredible is that it is fully adjustable all the way down to the ground. So you do not need springs if you have the Fiorina package. Just so we're clear, if you have the Fiorina package on your car, you do not need springs. Any mechanic can adjust the car down to any height you want. It was slammed earlier, we brought it back up a little bit. The second piece that needs to be noted, anytime you get a spacer package from somebody, they will mention that what you probably need on the car is a 10 millimeter in the front and a 15 millimeter on the rear. That is the perfect status for the SF90. And that isn't true. Actually, the best spacer for this car is the spacer from the 812 GTS, which is a 15 and a 20. This car is currently sitting on a 10 and a 15 like they recommended, but my previous one was sitting on a 15-20 and did a much better job at making it very, very flush and taking all the camber out perfectly. So if you have been in the market for an SF90 and you have the Fiorina package, remember that you can lower it as much as you want and you shouldn't replace the springs. There's nothing better on the market that is going to do a better job than what's in the car from the factory. 2, you have carbon wheels, so you want to preserve those. It's not even worth doing aftermarket wheels. And then 3, the other thing is if you're going to space these out to get that meaty look once you bring it down a little bit so it doesn't sit like a bus like we did here, you will need a 15-20 to get that perfect stance and perfect look. Otherwise, it is going to be not as exciting. Now, the other thing I'll mention is your titanium bolts, which will come standard on these carbon wheels, will also be forfeit once you do the 15-20 or the 10-15, and you'll need to either order titanium bolts or which are expensive again, or just use alter your bolts until you're ready to sell it and just save the bolts themselves. So this is basically my latest 2022 SF90. This one is going to be staying here for quite some time. It may not stay here forever, but it will stay here for quite some time as I enjoy driving it. It's one of the best driving experiences from Ferrari I've had in quite some time, and one of my most enjoyable latest exotics acquired. This car gives a run to the SVJ, meaning it really gives me a different feeling, but yet it's something pretty exquisite and exciting. There will be a couple of more modifications on this. We intend to try and test out a carbon roof and a carbon front here just to see if that will complete the look or not. We will see once we actually take a look at the prototype that was created by Riff there. And then otherwise, that is basically it. And the car will primarily stay exactly as you see it otherwise. Now remember, this has never been a better time to get out there and pick up your dream exotic, because the markets are just so exciting right now with so many pocket opportunities that you could be finding a steal that could be worth hundreds of thousands more down the road. So make sure you learn the methodology that allows you to find success in getting in and out of cars without losing any money, and in many cases actually making money doing so. So click the link in the video, click the link down in the description, and this will give you access to my free training on how to actually do this. And otherwise, make sure you like, turn on notifications, subscribe, and please in the comments let me know, what do you think about this color? Does it hit as hard for you as it did for me? I think it was very exciting, and I think it's gonna continue to become and stay one of the most exciting colors on the SF90 ever. I'll catch you guys in the next video for Exotic Car Hacks.